Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about the 7 mindset qualities which you need to enjoy life in Thailand long term. Hi, how are you doing? If you're new to this channel, I'm George Thai and you're on My Thai 24. So if you plan to live in Thailand or just want to make a long-term holiday here, it's very important to keep in mind that Thailand is quite likely more exotic and more different to the West than most other countries in Southeast Asia. This is also due to the fact that Thailand never has been colonized before. Due to this, it's not easy to understand and adjust to Thai culture and customs. It can be quite a bit of a challenge for quite a lot of people. Quite a few expatriates who I know here in Thailand are quite unhappy, frustrated kind of, complain about everything. They seem to be kind of stuck in a permanent culture shock. This is quite likely due to the fact that they came here with the wrong attitude and with a lack of some basic mindset qualities. Therefore, it's very important that you are aware of this and have the right mindset and attitude when you come to Thailand to live here long term. The list of 7 mindset qualities which I provide here in this video are kind of more general. They're not too specific about Thailand. Okay, some are specific about Thailand, but most of them are quite general and also can be applied if you want to live in another foreign country, which is very different to your own country. Okay, without further ado, just let's start with the top 7 mindset qualities for a happy and interesting life in Thailand long term. Number 1 is open-mindedness and tolerance. Quite obvious one, right? You need to be very open and tolerant because you will encounter many new things which you are not used to it when you start life in Thailand. And also new things, of course, which you need to accept. Things like new culture, new customs, new food, new smells, new weather, etc. So many new things, sometimes not easy to cope with. Always keep in mind, if you come to Thailand for a holiday, for a short holiday, this is something completely different than living in Thailand for long term, you know. You need to be open to the fact that in other countries things are done differently, sometimes very differently, and have a willingness and openness to adjust to it and adapt to it. With regard of tolerance, you need to be able to accept different people without criticizing them or discriminating them only because they are different, even if you don't like them or don't favor them, even if you do things normally completely different. Number 2 is empathy. To be empathetic means that you are able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, that you understand how another person feels and thinks in certain situations. The more you have empathy, the more likely you are able to understand other people, and also the better you get along with them, and therefore you are more likely to adapt to them. If you are more likely to adapt and understand the other people, you're also much more likely to have a happy and pleasant life there, because people also will like you. Number 3 is adaptability. When you live in a foreign country, you need to be able to adapt and adjust to the local culture. They say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. When it comes to culture, actually there's no right and wrong, at least for the most things not. Some stuff, when living in a foreign country, is quite easy to adapt to. For example, using fork and spoon for rice dishes in Thailand instead of fork and knife. Quite easy one, at least for the most people. But on the other hand, there are really difficult things to adapt to. For example, behavioral patterns, facial expressions, gestures, etc., as they are engraved into you since childhood. So it's really difficult to change them. Most people are even not aware of them. But it's very important, as very often things like facial expressions and gestures lead to misunderstandings, which can lead even to arguments and so on. So therefore, this is a very important topic. There are many details about this. I will talk about this in another video later, because it would be just too much to talk about all the details here in this video. However, trying to adapt to a local culture of a country doesn't mean that you get rid of your own personality and your own style. You need to have a certain balance between adjusting and adapting to that country and the culture and still remaining your own personal character. There are some things which you can compromise on quite easily, and there are some others which you cannot compromise on. For example, I would never treat a poor person or a person of lower social status with less respect or not as equal. But oftentimes this is still done by quite a few Thai people. I would never ever do this. I would not adjust or adapt to this, because it does not comply with important principles of my life and of my thinking. Number 5, don't be prejudiced. This means you should avoid generalizations and stereotypes. Do not generalize from the few Thai people you know to all Thai people. Do not use sentences like all Thais are like this, blah blah blah, or all Thai people, blah blah blah, or Thai people are blah blah blah. This, if you talk this way, particularly if it's in a negative way, it can be, first of all, it's wrong, because it's just too much generalized, it's biased. Second, it can be very insulting to a lot of people. Unfortunately, I hear quite a lot of expatriates here in Thailand talk this way, like in a biased, generalized way. They say, for example, all Thai people are, whatever, lazy. Of course, this is not true, because most of them, of course, are not. Just think like if somebody else would do this with your country and you. For example, if somebody would say, all English people are lazy, which is also not true. Quite likely most of them are not. So stop generalizing and start differentiating, also with your language. Say, the Thai people I know, or the Thai people I met recently. Differentiate, or say, the people in the family of my Thai girlfriend, or anything like this. But do not generalize from the few people you know to all Thai people. This is very important. With regard of stereotypes, just try to forget everything which you know or which you have heard about Thailand, which sounds like too generalized and too much like a stereotype. Keep in mind that everyone is different. Also, every Thai person is different. So if you meet someone new, treat them as an individual. Have respect and be open to know them without labeling them right from the beginning. If you're getting value from this video, please hit the like button. Thank you. Number 5, don't be imperialistically arrogant. Don't behave as though you are better or know everything better just because you come from a wealthier or more developed country, or just due to any other reason. Don't put yourself above the locals. Never do this. Arrogance and imperialistic behavior just results in people disliking you or even hate you. And this will make, I'm quite sure you do not want this, because it will make life pretty unpleasant and quite unhappy. Number 6, self-reflectivity and emotional awareness. You need to be able to reflect yourself and observe yourself in order to get aware of the fact that you go through different emotional phases when you live in a foreign country. And at some point, you quite surely will suffer a culture shock, at least to a certain extent. With regard of emotional phases, for example, at the beginning of your stay, of your long-term stay in a country, very often you might have this so-called honeymoon phase, particularly if you like that country a lot, perhaps due to many vacations and holidays you spent in that country, and now you live long-term in that country. You're very happy about this. During this honeymoon phase, you see everything like through rose-tinted glasses. You blend out all the negatives and all the things which you do not like. You are pretty euphoric. The more euphoric you are in this honeymoon phase, the more likely it is that you later plunge pretty deeply into a culture shock, like in a phase, and suddenly you get aware of all the negatives of the country and all the things you do not like, and you start complaining. Culture shock can be very overwhelming, can strike pretty hard, particularly if you were very euphoric at the beginning and blended out all the negatives in that country. Can be even worse. So it's very important that you reflect about yourself and observe yourself right from the beginning, and sometimes maybe calm yourself a little bit down if you're too euphoric at the beginning. With regard to self-reflection, it is also very important that you not only reflect about yourself, but also about your home country, the society you grew up. This is very important in order to get aware of the fact that all your habits and your behavior and your attitudes usually are just a product of your social environment in your home country. If you are very attached to this, to your home country and the culture there, it can be an obstacle if you start a new life in a foreign country which is very different to your home country. You need to be able to disconnect from your own country, from your own culture as much as possible. Just let loose, be free, and be open for something new in Thailand. This is really very important. The more you are disconnected from your own country and culture, and the more open you are to something new, the more likely you will have a happy and pleasant life in Thailand. Number 7, strength and diligence. Be strong, don't be weak, be ready to master everything on yourself, or at least most things on yourself. Don't rely too much on one single person. Don't take the easy road and just rely on your Thai girlfriend or Thai wife when you start a new life in Thailand. Because this can be a big drawback later when you start having problems with your wife or girlfriend, or you just even break up. So be as independent as possible right from the beginning. To avoid problems, I would recommend to rely on professionals, particularly if it's something very important. It might be costly, but in the long run, safer and cheaper. Okay, these were the 7 mindset qualities which I consider to be very important when you want to live in Thailand happily long term. If you have some mindset qualities to add, just let me know in the comment section. I hope that my list was helpful and interesting for you. If you have any questions, just ask them in the comment section. I will answer them. If you got value from this video, please smash the like button. Thank you. I will have more videos about more specific cultural tips for a happy life in Thailand. So please hit subscribe and make sure you don't miss them. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching, and I catch you on the next one.